It's another episode of the Christian Reeve Podcast. But are you subscribed? If not, make sure to like, share, and subscribe. Spread the word about the Christian Reeve Podcast and enjoy this episode. Hello, and welcome to another episode of the Christian Reeve Podcast. Today's guest is a property entrepreneur, a mentor, an investor, and founder of Property Wealth. Property Wealth. Sorry, I think that's the name of the company. Is that right? Property Wealth?
Yeah. Well, it's a combination of many other companies. So Property Wealth Estate, Property Wealth Education, and
That's it.
Yeah,
That's the
companies.
one. Yeah, because I'm just looking over my notes. Because actually, so sorry. Welcome to the show, Daniel. How are you doing?
Yes, I am doing well. I'm doing well. It's great to connect and great to finally get to meet you in person.
Absolutely, yeah. And for our listeners who might not be aware, so basically, I was due to have Daniel on the show a couple of months ago or something, and I think there was like a miscommunication or something there. And so I had all these notes written down from like ages ago, and I'm sort of just going through and refreshing my memory and everything. And I was just looking at this, and I was like, hang on, what's the name of the company? But let's dive straight into that company. So it says property investment. Is that what you're dealing with?
Yeah, so I'm into property investment and investing as well. And also I educate and motivate individuals to get started. And I also help individuals who's got money to kind of generate higher return on their investments by investing into our business as well. So I do a couple of multiple things in the property industry.
Interesting. Yeah, because it seems to be, stating the obvious, but it's a lot of different wings that you're sort of going for with here. So from what I understand about your career background, it's kind of, you built up initially through working through sort of regular estate agents, and then you got to like obviously setting up your own thing. And now, as you say, it's revolving into more like, I suppose, consultancy, I guess is probably the best way of putting it.
Well, actually, you got the opposite side. So I had no sort of property experience. I had no sort of background in letting agents at all. A couple of years ago, I had quite a really successful business in Africa, in Nigeria. I was originally born and raised in Nigeria. I relocated to the UK in search of a greener pasture to make my life better. That was in 2004. By 2012, it wasn't really happening for me the way I wanted it to happen. So I sold the small sort of businesses that I had in the UK and relocated back to Nigeria in 2012.
All right.
And I stayed in Nigeria for 2012, built a really good business in the oil and gas sector by transporting petroleum products to the end user. And that really went well and life really got better. But the fact that I had my wife and my kids in the UK,
right,
I missed them really much. And I wanted to always come back to UK once, the business in Nigeria was quite built really well. But that didn't happen in terms of me relocating because of the family quite quickly. But what did happen was I suffered a major setback. I lost some money in my Nigerian business, over £150,000 in a single month.
Wow.
And my business really crumbled, and I relocated back into the UK. And I've never been in a job 9 to 5 before, any sort of background like that.
Oh, interesting. Okay.
Yeah. And I lost over £150,000, I said. And I relocated back to the UK because I've never had a job. I've never been in employment before. I was unemployable. So I started to look for what are the options that I can obviously use now to sustain my personal economy, to obviously make sure the wife, the kids have been looked after. And I started, by becoming a delivery driver. From with Yodel, and then after that I signed up with the Uber, and I became a taxi driver by freelancing with Uber, where I was driving over 100 hours a week.
So let's back up a little bit, because obviously we've got quite a lot of things that you sort of laid out there, and I guess I want to kind of, because I like to go in detail on these podcasts, I like to kind of really get to deep into the facts and to the nitty gritty with my guests, and sort of just build up a profile. So basically, let's take it back to why you initially chose to come to the UK from Nigeria. Because now a lot of people will be like, okay, well, clearly you're just seeking greener pastures, different opportunities. The UK is known as one of those countries that has a lot of opportunities. So there is that kind of obvious angle to it. But, I've lived abroad as well. I've lived in other countries. So I know how difficult it is when you go to a country that's different from your homeland. It's kind of, I don't know. I think it's an important experience. And I think that in many ways it teaches you to appreciate your own sort of, I suppose, what you've got in your home country. Do you know what I mean?
Absolutely.
But there's naturally going to be the comparison element. So talk us through like how you came to that decision of initially moving to the UK. Like, well, what was the main thing that sort of stood out and made you think, do you know what, I need to leave?
Well, it's quite a very good question, actually. And I really love the way you've built it up, that question. So I went to uni in Nigeria. So I think towards the second year of my, being in the university in Nigeria, the Nigerian economy, it's quite a very vast, massive economy with 300 million people.
Mm-hmm.
The difference between the poor and the rich, it's absolutely different. The average Nigerian lives less than $1 a day, literally less than £1 a day. Average Nigerian live on $1 a day. And this in Nigeria, it's, yes, a lot of Nigerians go out there, get the best of degrees, certificates, and want to do more and be more. But, because the government hasn't provided that facility, that sort of foundation for anyone to really, really go out there to strive, make it in Nigeria, it's not as easy, but they say if you can make it in Nigeria, you can make it anywhere in the world. Towards the second year of me graduating from university, I just wanted a better life. I really wanted to grow, to not just be intimidated by my current society, not having the assurance to live a better life. In Nigeria, up till date, we have at least 60% of our roads are still very earth roads, basically no tiles on them, and we still currently, up to today, we still suffer with electricity. As in England, blackout, you don't have power cut. So we still have that problem in Nigeria. So that just goes to tell you where I'm coming from. So I just wanted to be in a place where things works, whereby, corruption is not really much of a problem. Most government officials in Nigeria are really, really well corrupted, very corrupt. The police force, it's corrupt.
Yeah. That's what I was going to ask. Like, how does it affect like your average person? Because obviously we've heard the stories, in the news, obviously, about how corruption is sort of prevalent in the government of Nigeria, and not just Nigeria, other countries in general. Even the UK government, there's corruption there. But like in some countries, it's more prevalent than others. So like, but the reality is that like what happens at the top doesn't always necessarily affect like the common sort of everyday person. So like, how would that affect you? You mentioned the police just then. So like, give me some examples of like how that would affect your life and how it would sort of make it difficult or whatever.
Just like this is why I laugh when I see, sometimes when I see what happens in the West and I see what happened back home in Africa, and I compare both, and I say, what of a lie. If I was in Nigeria, if a policeman was to beat me up in America, the Nigerian police would not, they would do the same, absolutely the same. In fact, the Nigerian police can actually bring out his gun if you are actually on the wrong, without that case even going to court and you being killed straight away by the police, and nothing is going to happen to the police officer. Wow. And that's the truth. Obviously in America, where, for example, the police can kill someone or something happens, then the case goes to court, it goes to trial, they try to understand what happens. It's almost impossible for that to happen in Nigeria. As of today, this is 2021. And growing up back in Nigeria, where I was in university, maybe if I've got 4 or 5 friends in my car and we're driving to the nightclub, we are actually a prime suspect of a crime. The moment you have 4 people, 5 people in your car and you're driving to a nightclub at a very deadly hour of the night, you're actually a crime suspect, except, you're just fortunate. So like literally growing up way back, I'm 41 years old now. I left university in 2004. So I'm talking about the early part of, late part of 1999, 2000, 2001, 2002, to 3 and 4. So when you have a lot of, like, you are literally hanging out with your mates, anything can literally happen to you because the government hasn't actually trained the police officers, trained, its population, on safety and so on and so forth. It doesn't happen. So I just wanted to literally escape. I just wanted to escape from that. You know, depending on what part you are in Nigeria, some parts are pretty secure, but some parts are insecure. Where the super wealthy live is secure. Right. You know, the federal capital city in Abuja, you know, it's super secure. Some part of Lagos where you have Banana Islands, you have the VGC and all these places in Nigeria, they're very secure. But where the average guy, the guy who works in Tesco, the guy who works in Sainsbury, equivalent in Nigeria, you know, lives their life every single day on risk.
This is the thing that interests me about Africa, just in general. Like, I know obviously Nigeria is within South Africa. That's right, isn't it? It's not North Africa.
Well, Nigeria is literally is in West Africa.
Okay.
Yeah, obviously, Nigeria is the biggest Black nation on the planet.
Right. Now, it's just interesting to me because I always hear these stories about Africa where, like, you know, the major cities are always generally, you know, I don't want to say affluent, but like people are doing well. If you're living in the city, you're probably doing well. But then anywhere outside, as you say, where most people live, it's like complete opposite. It's like night and day. Almost.
Absolutely. You know, and that's just how it is. You know, the difference, the poor, the difference between the wealthy and in Africa, it's so massive. I'll give you a very simple analysis. Yeah, a wealthy Nigerian lives on nothing less than £1,000 a day. A really wealthy Nigerian will spend, worst case scenario, like literally, it's £1,000 is nothing to spend in a day. Whereby you have the real poor Nigerian, a really poor guy, living less than £1, literally less than £50 a day, regardless of the job that they have. You know, a minimum wage in Nigeria, it's literally less. Someone with a minimum wage salary in a month in Nigeria literally makes about less than £200 a month.
Was it Nigeria that experienced hyperinflation at one point? Is that right?
Well, our economy is consistently, you know, in inflation, you know.
But I've heard certain countries around the world, like for instance, Germany very famously after, I believe, the First World War experienced that, where like it got to the point where, you know, like bread would be, I don't know, like 1 million Deutschmarks or something ridiculous like that. So you just couldn't afford anything, basically. Like, have you ever had a situation like that? Like you said, okay, you're always experiencing inflation, but does it ever get to a point where like you just can't afford that the common day essentials or whatever?
Well, there are individuals that couldn't afford the essentials. You know, there are individuals who live in abject poverty.
Right.
There are also the middle class who are doing okay, you know, but
so this is interesting. So you've got like a sort of a class system of some subscription.
Yes, absolutely. You've got really the lower class. You've got the class before the middle class. Then you've got the middle class. Then you've got the rich. Then you got the super rich, and you got the very super rich. Mm-hmm. You know, and the bracket is just insane. You know, and the super rich is literally, even no disrespect to England, the really super rich in Nigeria is richer than the country, richer than even England as a country.
Wow. Okay, that implies like big. We're talking like big oil deals and stuff like that. Then like stuff we got even
absolutely. You know, absolutely. The most expensive, the most richest Nigerian, Aliko Dangote, is one of the richest in the world. He's richer than the country.
Wow. It always kind of blows my mind how these people get away with it, like just on a level, because obviously, and that's a big thing as well. I remember there was a comedy sketch that I think it was Chris Rock did years ago, where he was explaining the difference between being rich and being wealthy, and that's a perfect example of what, because like a lot of people make this error. They don't understand the difference. Like being rich is just having a lot of cash. Wealth is like owning land, owning like industries, or having the power influence to lobby and kind of make major change in the world of some description, which is, you know, that's only a select few in the world, like probably less than 1,000 people in the world that actually control everything. It's kind of crazy to think about, but
absolutely.
Okay, so we painted sort of a picture of what you were sort of having to contend with growing up in Nigeria. So what made you kind of think, okay, the UK? Because, you know, Africans very famously travel all around the world. I mean, when I was living in Estonia, I met Nigerians. Like there's a lot of Africans going to various different countries around the world. But,
Absolutely.
you know, the first thing that I'm thinking is, okay, well, why not America? Why England? What sort of drew you to England?
Well, I think landing myself in England was just something quite coincident.
Okay.
What's happened was during during that particular year in 2004 when I wanted to travel, I did try to get an American visa. Fortunately, I was rejected, for the visa.
Do you know
And
why? Did they give you a reason?
Well, there wasn't any specific reason. So there wasn't any specific reason of me rejected a visa. It was just, we don't think you're qualified at this particular point in time. Try again in 6 months, and that's just not what of a lie to. I mean, I think till today, that's what Americans don't really tell you the reason why you've been rejected a visa.
Yeah, I've heard some shady stories about that. Sometimes they're like that whole qualifications thing is nonsense. It's about like,
unlike the UK, obviously UK is part of Commonwealth, is the head of Commonwealth. So if the UK is an explanation based country, like. Why? It's like my son is 13 years old. I can't just get my son to do something for me without him having to ask me the reason why I've asked him to do something. So the British, that's how they are. So the UK, for example, would reject your visa and they will tell you this is the reason why you didn't have enough money. We don't think the money you have will sustain you, and so they just explain things to you. I
think they should legally have to as well, because it's like, how are you not supposed to know? And like, if it is a prejudice thing, if it is based, because I think that's kind of what it is with America. It's like, because I've had friends who they've been rejected and they were well qualified, they had everything, but I don't know, maybe they come from a particular cultural background or something. And I'm not implying anything, but well, I kind of am, it blows my, especially for America, because it's multicultural nation. It's built on that idea, isn't it? But it's good. Okay, it's good that at least in England you get like an explanation. Okay, so you've been sort of brought into the country. Now, from what I understand, based on my research, you didn't speak English very well when you first came to the country. Talk to us a little bit about that.
Well, I literally spoke the naturally broken English. Like I hear people say this all the time, so in terms of, it's not like we obviously were British colony and we speak Queen's English in Nigeria. Mm-hmm. But the thing is, sometimes our pronunciation, when you're from Nigeria, our pronunciation is completely opposite,
Strong.
And sometimes I've had this conversation with a lot of, English people, and they say, oh, you're trying to say, maybe you're trying to say, pronounce a certain word. And I pronounce it that way. It's like, oh, okay, I get what you mean, because of that sort of accent. So I had a very strong typical Nigerian accent, because, we speak broken English. Every single Nigerian speaks a broken English. Yeah. So it's just like patois. All right. So Jamaicans speak patois. Mm-hmm. So, and they speak in English, but it's patois. And when they communicate, you've got to listen a little bit more carefully in order for you to actually get what they're talking about. So my accent was pretty, the same. And, I wasn't born to, I wasn't trained to understand every single word on the Queen's Oxford's dictionary.
Of course.
So and my English wasn't really great. For me personally, that's just how I felt. I felt like my English wasn't really great. So even till today, I still say it. English is not my first language. English is not my first language. It's not because I'm looking for a comfort zone, but it's just because the fact is, when I'm even right now, for the listeners, they will probably still hear some sort of African accent in my speaking. Yeah, so English wasn't really that great, which was a big challenge when I first came here. Alongside with all the usuals of relocating to a completely new sort of culture, new background, new way of thinking, new way of doing things. Yeah, it wasn't really easy.
A couple of reasons why I ask. One, because I want to delve into your first initial jobs to set up, what that was like for you. But also, I got a flatmate right now who's from Portugal. From Brazil. And he doesn't speak any English. Like he's learning a little bit. He's working really hard. I think he's been here about 2.5 months now, but we literally communicate through Google Translate. It's actually kind of funny. and he's really struggling. You know, he's working hard to provide a life here and for his family to come over and everything. And it makes sense, you know, it's because of Brexit and everything. He's trying to do that, and I fully respect that. And I'm just like, I'm stunned by it because, and we've spoken about it through this broken messaging system that we've had, that it's very brave on his part to have done that. And through him, I've kind of understood, like, at least in England, like why it's so important to speak English here. And what I mean by that is, like, you know, when I lived in Europe, when I lived abroad, in Europe, most countries, they learn several languages from the get-go. So, you know, if you speak English, you can pretty much get by in most places. But coming to England, if you don't speak English, is tough because there are certain industries, maybe like the hotel industry and stuff, where they might speak several languages. But generally speaking, most people, it's like English or nothing. So it's very tough coming to the UK in that scenario.
Yeah, I mean, if you really look at it, like if you was to go to Nigeria,
right,
you know, you couldn't find it really that difficult because English is our first language in terms of communication, but not just like the mother tongue. Imagine in Nigeria, for example, we speak over 262 languages.
Oh wow!
Right?
Okay,
yeah, that's over 262 languages in Nigeria. You know, if you was to relocate from Nigeria to Japan, you know, is the first language is Japanese. So I actually have a brother, one of my eldest brothers. He lived in Japan for 30 years plus now. He speaks and writes Nihongo, speaks and writes Japanese.
That's amazing.
And yes, and because his choice was to go and live in Japan.
Yeah.
And he had to learn their lifestyle, the culture, the language. So when you do relocate to the UK, you know, being your first language, being Afrikaans, Japanese, Chinese, whatever the case might be, you have to learn the language. It takes time. Some people pick it very quickly, especially kids. Kids pick it up very quickly. But for adults like me, I was 20 plus when I came to the UK, you know. So at some point, it's I'm speaking English, but I'm not speaking. I don't have the actual accent. So that makes it sort of a big deal, you know. So over years of time, I think it got better. It got better and better. And to be honest, over the last couple of years, especially in the last 4 years, where I have actually become really diverse. I'm really like, I've got friends from all over the place, you know. Unlike before, the very first 12 years I lived in this country, 80% of people who I mingled with were African Nigerians, Ghanaians, Sierra Leoneans, you know, because that was within my comfort zone.
Yeah.
That didn't really help me that much because we speak our local pidgin English, you know. But when I decided to break out of that circle, my English actually got better because I'm communicating with, you know, different types of people now who speaks English very fluently. So yeah, it was really challenging, but we got there in the end.
Absolutely. Yeah, no. So when you first kind of came here and you had to, because it's a very interesting story, you know. You have a business, you're a businessman, like you said, you hadn't really worked a 9 to 5 before then, you know, and then now you've got to do that. And you got to do it in a foreign country, and like everything's different and everything. So you mentioned that you worked very briefly for Yodel and as a taxi cab driver. So like, talk us through what that was like in the early stages. Like, how did you navigate that? How was it for you?
Well, working for Yodel and working as Uber driver was towards, you know, after losing money in 2015, and that. But when I first came into the country, you know, in 2004. I couldn't really have a job because you need papers. You need to have a resident status. You know, we call it papers anyway. So you need to have residential status in order for you to have a job, a real 9 to 5, you know, and to kind of pay your bills and stuff like that. But because I was on a visiting visa at that time, I couldn't work. So the only thing I could do is to kind of try and see if I could do buy and selling because that's what I've been used to. So during the very first 12 months of my going back to Nigeria and coming back to the UK before I eventually had my resident permit in 2006, you know, it was not really easy because I didn't have that means to have a bank account. I didn't have the means to do anything. So it was difficult. So, but the only kind of jobs I could do were, you know, the only things I can really do for people was to kind of help people clean their houses and get paid cash. And and it wasn't like a job. It was be like maybe a friend of a friend, or I know, say, okay,
Yeah.
come and help me clean my house. I'll give £50, anything to survive. I think that was after my second visit. Then I met my wife. So I met my wife. Met my wife then in 2005. Obviously, this is now 2021. So my girlfriend, then we started dating, and after some while of dating, she kind of get to understand me, knew what I was doing, and said, what are you actually here for? So I said, I really want to live in this country, and we just got stronger and stronger. And she gave me more reason to live in the country. So I remember traveling back in January 2006, back to Nigeria, to sell clothes and wherever I was selling. And then I told my mom, I had met my girlfriend. I really love this girl. Mom, I always wanted to live in the UK. And when I got the opportunity to have a visiting visa, in order for me to travel 2 months, 3 months back, or a month or a week or two, wherever the case might be, and everything just started to make sense when I met my wife. So I met my wife in October. I think I met my wife in October 2005. And then we got married about 8 months later. And once we got married, and everything changed because I had to apply through her status because she's British. I became a British citizen through that. And fast forward very, very quickly, I started to really settle down. 2008, we had our first child. I started setting up my businesses, and that's just kind of how I built my momentum, settled into the country. But trust me, it wasn't as easy as I'm explaining right now. It was really, really challenging.
Never is, man.
It was really, really challenging. It was very difficult, but thank goodness she believed in me. She helped me in every single way that I could, to settle into the country once we decided to live here. And 2006, England just became a home for me. And through that struggles of trying to sell clothes, trying to sell things here and there, I built my very first business, which was in setting up internet cafes. That went well, but I saw that business in 2000.
So how did that business work then? Like, was it like a kind of a portable thing? Like, talk us through a little bit about that.
Well, I set up internet cafe. So internet cafe, if you remember back in them days, there wasn't smartphones. Okay,
it's weird. I remember those places that you go in there and
pay a pound to use the internet.
But most of the time they didn't even serve coffee. I felt cheated.
Yeah, so I had one of those. We grew from 1 to 2 to 3 to 4 around South London. And so the money I used to set up that came from me buying clothes from Primark, from Marks and Spencer. My wife worked in Marks and Spencer, so I would buy clothes, I would buy jumpers, boxers, shorts, shirts, ship it over back to Nigeria.
That's a good idea,
Yeah, that's a good. I would sell it in Nigeria for a premium price, and from that I started selling cars. So I would buy cars. I would buy cars from auctions. I would break them into pieces. I would ship them back to Nigeria. I was just basically hustling. I was hustling anything to survive. So I would break those cars into spare parts, send it back to Nigeria, invest about £5,000, sell it, make about £2,000 profit, bring it back again, do the same. And that allowed me to set up my internet cafe. But it was just like, when am I actually going to have breakthroughs? But I just got sick and tired of being sick and tired. And I just told my wife, I said, listen, in 2012, I've got to go back to Nigeria. I can't keep living my life like this. I need to do something better. I need to look after the kids. It was really stressful. So she agreed with me.
So like you had to kind of leave them here in the UK and you had to go.
Wow. I had to go back. I said, you know what? Because the goal in 2004 was to search for greener pasture. Now I'm here in England. Greener pasture isn't knocking on the door at all.
So you're sort of having to go back in order to provide a better life for your family in the UK.
Yeah.
But it's... Yeah, talk us through how you got through that, because I can't imagine your wife was not... I know obviously she understood, but like that's a tough conversation to have, and then to make that work. How did you make that work?
Well, as I said, the dream of how England would, coming to England, your life is just going to change overnight. After 5-6 years, realize, there is no life changing overnight here. All right. The essence of some sort of security issues and challenges that we have in Nigeria doesn't happen in England. I remember, being bumped into as well by some, being jumped by some group of boys in Peckham, where they stole my phone, they stole my phone, I was robbed basically in the streets of Peckham in South London. So I'm like, I'm trying to run away from Nigeria. These things happen in Nigeria. I thought it don't happen in England. So I just got sick and tired. In fact, I just went through those big moments of my life, big, massive moments of roller coasters. And I just felt, okay, I felt Nigeria was not meant for me. And I thought England was better. And I'm here now in England. Now I've got a wife. I've got 2 kids because my first son was born in 2008. My second was born in 2011. So I'm like, oh man, like I've got big responsibility now. Like I cannot be in a place where it's about a business. In Africa, when you have a business, it's meant to make you wealthy. All right. You don't start a business to be a business owner that you feel like you're going to just be above the average. You start a business having the mindset of being very wealthy. And that was my mindset. My mindset is to start a business and be super, super wealthy. But right now, I'm selling cars, I'm selling clothes. It's not happening. Set up internet cafe, still not happening. I'm like, you know what? Let me see what's happening and let me go back to Nigeria, especially because I've now lived in England for some time. A few friends and families that I say, why don't you come and, set up something, the experience of what you've learned in the last couple of years in the UK, why don't you bring it back to Nigeria? Maybe life could change. I said, all right, why don't I give it a try? Sat the missus down, spoke to her. I said, this is what the situation are. Obviously, you know me, I'm somebody that, I don't get comfortable, regardless of how comfortable I am. I'm just somebody that don't get comfortable. That's what wealthy people do. You've just got to you got to keep pushing yourself. Even if you reach a certain goal, set a bigger goal for yourself, never stopping. So I said to my wife, why don't I just give me about the next 12 months minimum? Let me go and try Nigeria. Let me collapse the little bit of a structure that I already have here. So I was able to liquidate what I already had here, took some money back to Nigeria, and I started a business in Nigeria. And funny enough, within the very first 12 months, I started to really have some sort of element of fulfillment that the business is going the way as it is, because at that time I was able to pay the bills in the UK, pay my bills in Nigeria. However, I was able to travel back and forth from Nigeria to the UK to see my wife and kids. So I would come in, spend 3 months. With that, I would go to Nigeria, spend 3 months, and I'll come to UK, spend a month. I did that for the first year, where I literally would travel almost 3-4 times a year back home to Nigeria, back again to the UK. And then the second year, I kind of reduced it a little bit by traveling every 4 months instead of every 3 months. And the third year, kind of reduced it. I increased it by like 5 months instead of 4 months. Then the realities of life kicks in. You have kids that are growing that need you. You have a wife that needs you, and I'm bombarded by so much emotional roller coaster now. Should I follow my passion to creating wealth, or should I actually become a good husband and a good father by being in their life, taking them to school, not just traveling back home and take them to school for like a month, then I'm off again, and sometimes challenges are blessings. So for me, in 2015, my business in Nigeria went through some serious challenges, and I lost over 150,000 pounds in a single month. My business literally just went down the drain.
What was the business in?
It was in oil and gas industry. So as I said, I would transport refined oil products from the depots to the petrol stations for the petrols to be sold to the end user. So that was what I was into. So I had two of my trailers with petroleum products burst into flames. I had an accident and burst into flames the same month.
Wow.
Yeah, the same month. I lost over 150,000 pounds. At that time, I felt like, oh my days, what is going on here? I felt frustrated. I felt like, why is it me? Why? I've been here a couple of years in the UK. I couldn't really live the life I really wanted. Now I've gone back to Nigeria. Things are really working for me now. And all of a sudden, this has happened. You know what? Maybe what my emotional roller coaster has been telling me to just go back to the UK and just, go and be a husband and a dad, get a 9-to-5 job. Business is absolutely not for me.
There's some people that would say that, something like that happening is life's way of telling you like this is not your path, and maybe a different path is intended for you? Like, is that how you saw it sort of afterwards?
Yes.
Or okay.
Yes. I felt rubbish. I felt useless. I felt like the universe is not, this is not what this is not what the universe is saying for me to do, or this is not even what God himself is probably asking me to do. So maybe God is asking me to just get a job, and then you speak to your other half, and you start speaking to your other half, and your other half say, maybe you're right. What, just get a job and look after us. All I just want you to be is to be a husband and look after the kids and look after me. And then you start listening to all of this. And to be honest, in 2015, I just made up my mind. I said, December, I'm back to England. I just picked up my bag because business is not working in Nigeria. I've had this major issue, and I just relocated back. Came back to the UK. I remember sitting in the sofa when I came back on the 20th. When I came back on the 15th of December, I sat in the sofa, really felt deflated. So this is me now, 10 years, almost 10 years of my life, feeling like wasted, not knowing what to do. So I just said to my wife, I've never had a job. I can't be employable. So what next? She said, just do anything. Anything you've got to do now, Daniel, to look after us, just do it. So I said, okay, I'll go and get a delivery job because I've got a clean driver's license. Maybe that will work. And I remember she looked at me and she said to me, delivery job. Well, what am I going to really tell my mom? What am I going to tell family members that,
Wow. Priorities, woman.
Yeah. She's like, I said, well, I'm a wanker. Sorry, my language. So I'm like, I'm that's how I feel. I feel useless now. So she's like, well, anything that you want to do, I wish you the best. I'll be there for you as your wife. And
let's back up for a second. So you're sitting there, you're feeling deflated, and then you're thinking like, okay, yeah, alternatives, maybe I'll do this. So obviously she's kind of thinking like, oh no, this would be terrible, like, oh, blah, 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 right? But are you thinking in your mind already like, yeah, but this is a stepping stone? Or are you just thinking about what's in front of you? Like, where's your head at, kind of thing?
At that point, my head is just like, I have failed. I'm useless.
Right. But when you start thinking about like, okay, maybe I'll do this delivery job, maybe I'll do this. So obviously you're thinking, right, I need to support my family, I need to just bring some money in, blah, blah, blah. But like what I'm saying are you already working on like how to build up upon that? Or are you just kind of like, I just need work and that's it?
And that was it. It was just like, I just need a job. I just need to look after my kids. I just need to look after these people now. Like I've tried for the last 10 years plus trying to make things better, but it's not happening. So this is it now. I don't think there's going to ever be any sort of like that sort of good life that I so much desire and stuff like that. And that was just the mindset. There wasn't any sort of, I could become, this is a stepping stone for me or anything like that. For that first 6 months, that was just how I felt. I wasn't seeing anything. It's just like being in this sort of dark place where there is no light at the end of that tunnel. That's just how I felt.
Okay, let's try and lighten things up a little bit before I get to your business, because I like the way this is going. We're getting like a very kind of nice chronological kind of order. I like this. It makes me happy. The OCD side of me. Did you have any kind of like funny or weird or sort of crazy experiences working either as a taxi driver or with Yodel? Like anything that just kind of sticks out that was a bit crazy or funny or anything like that?
Well, yeah. I think in terms of having something funny at that time was when I got knocked down and I obviously been a delivery driver and I started driving Uber. I met with so many different type of people, having conversations with them. So every single time I had a conversation with them, some people say to me, "Are you sure, Daniel?" Because when you pick up a passenger, it shows your name, Daniel, and then people is like, "Oh, hello, Daniel." So most people, someone coming to your car is like, "Oh, hi, Daniel." So they already feel like you know them or they know you because they mentioned your name, and you can also obviously say, "Hi, Christian," because you know who you're picking up.
Yeah, so sometimes weird though when people do that. Yes. I'm like, okay. I used to work in a supermarket and people they'd say my name like, hello, Christian. And I'd look and I'd be like, oh, yeah, my name tag's there. And I'm like, hello.
For me, I really loved it.
Oh, okay, fair enough.
Really loved it. So whenever people came into my car, and sometimes some people want to really have a chat, get to know you, especially when you're doing airport runs in the morning. So especially when you're taking someone to the airport, it can be about an hour drive. You're in the car with someone. So some people want to have a conversation with you, or especially some long nights when people, they've closed from work. I remember driving someone from London to Birmingham.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, one night. And this particular guy, we're talking in the car, and we really got talking. And he said, are you sure you're really an Uber driver? And I'm like, why did you say that? He said, you're so full of some sort of wisdom. I said, only if you know what I've been through.
That's what wisdom is.
I said, I've been through the worst, I've been through the downs, and this is me now. So in me now is like, this is a guy who had an ambition to have this sort of great life. And this is where I'm ending up. So me, I felt like it's finished. So this is it now. So it's going to be me.
Oh, so in your mind, you've kind of like accepted it. Like, okay, I'm a taxi driver. This is me now.
Yeah, absolutely. I did.
Wow.
I did.
Okay. I've been there. I remember, I mean, it sounds silly thinking back now, but, and sorry for my listeners for bringing this up for the millionth time, but this supermarket job I had when I was 18, because I was there for like 2 or 3 years.
Yeah.
I really felt the same. I felt like, oh, I should have gone to university, but I was too stupid for that. And now this is my life. I stack shelves for a living and all of this. And I just kind of remember feeling very similar. I remember thinking like, as depressing as it sounds, but like there is no future past this point. This is it now. And like, it's like, people don't often think about this, but like when you're a person who knows that they should be doing so much more with their life, but they're doing this thing that to just pay the bills, just to make ends meet. But they're kind of you're stuck. That's the best way to put it. You're stuck in a position that you don't want to be in. And it's like, how do I get out of this? But you can't see a way out of it. It's a scary mindset to have.
Someone first, gave me an analogy about drowning. It says he didn't know how to swim, and he was in a boat. And while the boat was sailing, the boat capsized, and what then happened was he couldn't swim. And at some point when the boat capsized and he was in there and he's trying to struggle to try and, stay on top, stay above the water so he doesn't drown, there was a point where he literally just couldn't struggle anymore. And he's just like, all right, this is it now. He just left. And then he found himself under the water. And that was when, someone reached, he saw someone jumped into the water and, and then pulled him out. And when he gave me this, a very close friend of mine way back in Africa, and he said, it's sometimes in life, it's like you're fighting consistent battles. And it could be like, you're just going to just let yourself, like, this is it now. You just accept it and say, you know what? Let it be. It's like someone having, to struggle for their life, and you get to a point where you feel like, okay, this is it now, and I'm done. That is exactly how I felt, because I just felt like, because I've always been very energetic. I've been someone who I challenge myself every single day. Like, my wife said this to me all the time. It's like, oh, Daniel, you're too much. I said, you're too much. I was like, yep, that is it. So, and I don't drink a lot of alcohol to get so drunk, but I'm very hyped up. I'm very hyped up at that point in time. That's just what happened to me. So I felt like this is it. And I've accepted it. Yet being an Uber driver is how I'm going to look after my kids, drive. Again, it wasn't really easy driving Uber. Growing a business to 150,000 pounds in Nigeria was a lot of money. A lot of money. That's equivalent of 150 million naira in Nigeria is equivalent to 150,000 pounds in England. That is quite a good, like, I'm no longer poor. if that makes sense. I can't be on a poor bracket if I was to be in Nigeria. That's what that means. So it meant a lot to me. Being able to travel from Nigeria back to England, from England back to Nigeria, and travel the world, that made like, it was a good place to be. And all of a sudden, all of that taken away from me, and going through depression, going through anxiety, it wasn't easy at all because, I just accepted it. And how I came out of it was literally just doing what I was doing, just keep, driving people around. But I think about a year later I started to kind of have a little bit of hope again. And trust me on this one, I think a lot of people actually say this, that they don't believe in God. For me, I believe in God a lot. And this is where I dropped someone off. I dropped someone off on that long journey and to one of these airports. I can't remember which airport it was again now. And I was actually so tired, and I drove into a McDonald's and I was sleeping. And in my sleep, I saw myself being a property investor. And I was just in this room where they were talking about property investing and all this stuff. And I jumped out from that dream, and I was sleeping, and I jumped out of that dream, and I decided to look on my Facebook. I decided to look on my phone, to take the next job. But at the same time, I just opened my Facebook page, and this was in 2017. And all of my lost hope literally came back to life, because in that dream, I was in an event, being taught in property. And I woke up and I saw on Facebook, and there was an ad on Facebook saying buying properties, controlling properties, and so on and so forth. The guy was promoting it, and I just literally clicked. It was a £70 networking event. And sometimes people say they don't believe in miracles. I literally, it's like everything I've been through in my life today was building me for what I am today. So at that point in time, the last £70 I have on my balance on my credit card, I paid for that £70. It was actually money meant for me to buy my petrol the next day.
Oh, wow. Okay.
So I registered for that event. I went down to London. While the guy was talking, I was like, oh my days, this is just too good to be true. It's impossible. Why isn't everyone doing this in property? Why is this not happening?
I just want to back up 1 second. So I've had similar experiences to what you said. Like, I don't believe in God, but I do believe in something. I don't know. I always refer to it as like power of the universe. But many of the principles of religion I agree with, like, you should put out good and good will come to you and all of these things. But you need to be like the author of everything. That's the thing. Like, the universe or God will give you opportunities.
Absolutely.
But like, sometimes it's not obvious. Sometimes it's like it can be shrouded in something that you don't feel comfortable with, or sometimes it requires you to take a leap of faith, etc. But one thing that's always interested me about, especially those vision type scenarios, is how accurate they can be. So obviously that vision you had, the networking event, when you get there, when you go to this place, is it like how you imagined it and it's in your dream, or was it just more of a feeling? Like, did it kind of freak you out a bit? I don't know.
funny enough, when I eventually got registered and I actually went to this particular event, it was opposite of what the dream was.
Or like terrible, dingy place?
No, it took place, but it was opposite. So it was kind of opposite. When I mean it was kind of opposite, I was in a room where someone was literally talking about property investing and stuff like that, and it was just about a few of us, like 2-3 of us. But when I attended this place, it was like 60-70 people.
Oh, right. Yeah, I get you.
So from a room where there was 3 people and you're being coached by someone and it's just few people, and to a room where you had so many people, so it was quite opposite. So literally 3, 4, 7, more than 10 times the numbers. And that's just how I felt. I got rescued from all my hopes coming back to life. So I had that fire. This happened towards the early part of March. 2017. And I literally just took that leap of faith, and I said, "Wow, this is amazing." So for me, I do feel like in life, the lesson for me is that looking back now since 2017, one of the things I say to myself every single day was, sometimes when you are growing in life, when you are adding to your life, or you're growing in something in life, sometimes we all go through challenges, but we often blame the challenges, not knowing that the challenges are actually sent to make you who you are, a better person. So the whole drama of me losing money in Africa, the whole 10 years of me not exceeding or succeeding in business in the UK, going back to Nigeria, was part of a process building me for the man that I am today. Because I try as much as possible to almost call myself somebody without any sort of element of being a very proud person, because I've seen it. I've been there. I've done that. I've been to a situation where I had money to not having money. I've been to all different types of, challenges that every single successful entrepreneur goes through, because our stories and our journey is what makes us, and if you're able to go through this challenge and stand the taste of time, then that means when success actually start to come your way, it's not a surprise, because you've paid a price. So for me, being where I am today, and going through all these dramas in my life, just to encourage anyone, if you really want to be somebody who wants to be more and do more in life, it's not going to be handed to you on a platter of gold.
Couldn't agree more. Yeah, you always sacrifice something. I think for many of us, it's time, isn't it? I mean, money is a big investment, but money comes and money goes. I think most of the time it's about time. It's about putting the time in, and you'll have people around you say, like, why are you wasting your time with that? Like, like, it's like, for instance, what I do, there are people, even family, that refer to it as a hobby, and it's not like that for me. But I don't get angry anymore. I get why they think that way, but I'm looking at what this can do for me, because I know that I just never will be happy doing a 9-to-5 job, doing contract work, whatever. Like, I've been there, I've done that, worn the t-shirt, and it always just made me unfulfilled, made me sad, everything in between. But this, like, invigorates me. I never get bored of this. I always enjoy it. It's always different, and it feels right, which I think is the most important thing. Now, bringing it back to because I want to know a little bit more before we sort of talk about your business. So what was it about that conversation that kind of made you think, okay, this is what I need to be doing? Like, what was it about property management that made you think, okay, I didn't waste £80. This is definitely, or £70. This is definitely what I should be doing. Let's go all in. Like, what was the thing that clicked for you?
So one of the things that clicked for me when I attended that £70 networking event, was I just realized literally that, oh wow, so people actually do come together and talk about business. Because
okay,
I no word of a lie, before then I really was never exposed to networking. I was never exposed to networking. I was never, like I said, you remember I said, I've been for like 10 years or 12 years of my life, I've been in this country, and I'm close to a community of fellow Nigerians, Sierra Leoneans, Ugandans, Ghanaians. I'm just in that sort of African community. So I'm just where I'm in my comfort zone.
Mm-hmm.
So when that happened, and I'm sitting in a room, the guy sitting next to me, Chinese guy, the next guy sitting to me is Japanese, the next guy is English, the next guy behind me is Indian. And I'm looking for someone who is Nigerian around me so I can sit close to them. There isn't any.
Oh, wow. Yeah.
And I'm like, oh, wow, I love this. So, wow. So I had a different mentality. The mentality was the Chinese guy wasn't going to talk to me. Imagine, I'm telling my own self down, like literally, I'm tearing my own self apart by having all these elements of negativity over the years, thinking, okay, I've got to be experienced to be in some certain rooms, or I've got to know something to be in some certain places.
Ah, I see.
And I'm in this room, and this guy's talking about property, and the next guy sitting to me is like, "Wow, really, you can do this?" I'm like, "Yeah." I'm like, "Wow," and he's like, "Wow," and we're talking. Everyone is talking, and at the end of that, I'm just like, I'm raising up my hand already. Like, what next? What do I do next? I need to do this and that, and that just led me to a different perspective, the different way of thinking, and anyway, it was just a massive breakthrough. And from that time, I became like a networkaholic, if there's any word as that. I just started networking, getting myself educated, personal development after personal development, empowering my mind, empowering my vision, empowering my growth,
So
and
when this sort of where did you go from here in terms of getting your first kind of job in property management? Like, what was the first steps there?
well, I didn't go get a job. I went to get myself a business.
Okay. You will talk us through that. Like, how did that kind of start?
So
Like, what steps did you
yeah,
take?
so I signed up. I signed up for the training program that they had. It was about 1750, if I can remember now. And
1750. That's interesting. So their networking event was more expensive than their training.
no, 17. When I mean 1750, 1,750 pounds. Sorry, sorry.
Okay, yeah, that sounds a bit more.
1,750 pounds was the training program. So I said I didn't have it, but at that point in time, I just said to myself, I'm gonna put my hands up. And I literally put my hands up and I said to the guy, I'm willing to come in now. I've got about 200 pounds, on me, because I've obviously got paid from my Uber job. And because Uber usually pays us on a Friday. So, and I went to this training on a Friday. So the money just hit my account. So I was like, yes, I'm committing 200 pounds right away. And is there any way you can give me time to pay? So funny enough, they structured, I think it's structured about 2 months payment plan. I said, once you finish paying, then you can come to the training. I was like, okay, let's do it. So I made the commitment, I paid, and
Yo, back up a second. That's a bit dodgy. What do you mean they were like, yeah, you pay us first, and then we'll give you the training? Like, did you not just sort of think straight away, like, that's a bit dodgy?
no, I didn't feel that. I just felt like, what is the worst that can happen right now?
Well, they could take your money and just scam you.
And funny enough, it's good you said this, because when I left that networking event and I went and I spoke to a friend on a Saturday, and they said to me, you were being scammed. Every person I told, I just made a commitment to a 1,700 pounds course, property training, and they said, oh no, it doesn't work. You're gonna be scammed. And I'm just super. I really want to thank myself. I really want to thank Daniel Moses for listening to Daniel Moses, because if I did not listen to Daniel Moses, I would not be where I am today.
Your intuition, or your gut set.
I just want to thank myself, because every single person that I spoke to said to me I was being scammed. The same way you just asked me, 200 pounds. Wait a minute.
Well, here's the thing. Like, I'm the same as you. I trust my intuition with everything. It's a bit crazy, but when you start doing that, it makes sense, because you can't lie to yourself. But yeah, I think the reason why a lot of people would be skeptical is just because of the way they laid that out. Like, we will allow you to do the training once you've paid. That's I think, and the thing is, there are a lot of scams, especially in the UK, where they have things like that, where they try to get you to pay up front for something, and then they just see you later. You never see them again. And I think that's where that kind of comes from. Not necessarily that they doubt you and what you're trying to achieve. They just doubt that specific way that's laid out, if you know what I mean.
Yeah, absolutely. This is one of the things that when life has knocked you down so many times, this is where you develop a complete different mindset.
Okay.
So for me, life has knocked me down so many times, and I've been in a place where I lost everything. Lost over 150K, and for me, £200 commitment wasn't seem to be that sort of a loss now, because I'm like, if I've lost 150 and I didn't die, 250.
That's
So
interesting.
my mentality is, this is why I said every single thing I've been through in life built me for who I am today. My risk appetite, my mindset, my transition, it's built me. So challenges are there to actually create a better version of you, not to pull you down. But what normally happens to a lot of people is that they let their challenges in life soak them and transition them into somebody that they accept that, I'm no longer good for nothing. And, for me, because I've been through so much, and at that time, making that commitment, even when every single person for the 4 months plus or 5 months plus, every person I was telling, I'm learning this property thing, I'm going to these places, and everyone told me, the same community of people that I was surrounded by told me, I was like, it's not going to work. Nobody gets rich, and nobody breaks through that easily in the UK just by borrowing other people's property, because the strategy that I was taught as at then was how to trade property that I don't own and get paid, and also how to control people's property that I don't own and act as if I am the owner of the property. It's called subletting. So
okay, yeah.
People that I spoke to say, oh, that is illegal. Everyone said it's illegal. But I was getting taught the right way to do it and legally do it and actually treat it as a business.
Yeah.
And cut long story short, my business was established by November 2017. And November 2018, I had a business that was doing a turnover of over £80,000. 12 months later, I created a business in property that brought in £80,000 plus in revenue. And in October 2018, I quit my Uber driving job.
Oh, congrats. That's awesome. Yeah. I mean, these things do tend to be a kind of step-by-step process, really. And it's interesting how these things develop. And that's kind of leading me to my next question, actually. So now you have this company, which we briefly mentioned before. It's known as Property Wealth Education. So talk to us about the various different services that you provide, and just exactly what you do with it, basically.
Basically, like I said, when you was introducing me, and we kind of focused on property wealth education, but where it all started from Property Wealth Estate. Right. So Property Wealth Estate is a company that manages property on behalf of tired landlords, or landlords just looking for rental income without having to take the headaches, or estate agents struggling to rent out properties. What we do is we rent those property from the landlords, the letting agents. We seek the permission to sublet that property on behalf of the landlord. And what we do is we have the permission from them, right, to rent the house out as a house of multiple occupation. So if you obviously, what unit did you go to? Did you go to uni here?
Yeah, I did.
Did you go from home, or did you stay in hostels? What was your situation?
I was a campus space, so I stayed in halls.
Great. So if you notice in student environment, what you will find out is that you see 5 or 6 individuals living together, but they're friends, they're not related, but everybody is paying their rents to the landlord. So those type of properties called HMOs, house of multiple occupation. Mm-hmm. So what I did was I would rent a 4-bedroom with a 3 reception room or 2 reception room from the landlord. And I would then say to the landlord, I'm renting your property out from you, and I'm going to pay you, for example, £1,500. However, I'm not the one that's going to live in that property, but I need your permission to be able to rent it out to 5, 6, 7 people to live in that house.
Oh, wow. Okay.
I'm going to need to apply for a license, something called a mandatory HMO license, which is for me, which allows me to have 5 or 6 individuals in that property.
So this is what you were talking about. This is the legal way to do subletting.
Absolutely.
Right. I'm glad I finally understand this. It's good to learn. This is good stuff.
Yeah. So, and that was where the journey started. So I would then go on Rightmove, go on Zoopla, look for landlords, properties that's been on the market for 3 months, 4 months, 5 months, not renting, and I would then offer them a guaranteed rent. I would be referenced as a tenant, pre-qualified as a tenant. However, I have the permission, as the tenant to act as the landlord by renting this property out to anyone who's looking to rent the rooms.
Yeah, and this is what I wanted to ask you next, actually. So obviously the landlord is putting a lot of trust in you to make sure that the house is taken care of.
1,000,000%.
Right. So like, how do you actually enforce that? Particularly because you're acting as like a business entity that's managing this. So like, let's say you have students. Students are notorious for kind of messing up houses and stuff. It's just what we do. So how do you stop that, basically? Like,
there are pre-qualification processes that take place. It's not everyone that wants to rent your house you're going to give your house to. Mm-hmm. All right. First of all, the landlord is putting a lot of trust and liability on you, so because he's invested a minimum of 20-25% deposit to actually have acquire that asset. And this is where you've got to be knowledgeable. You've got to have the skill. You've got to have the right information to do it. So you've got to present yourself well for someone to believe in you. But obviously, I was able to present myself, and landlords, letting agents started working with myself, and I would then obviously rent those houses out on a room by room basis, obviously vetting through every single person that comes to rent the house. So one of the things I did do most time is I would never rent a house 3 rooms to 3 friends. I would never do that. I would only rent to 2 friends. So because when it becomes 3 friends, the 3 friends can actually dominate the house and treat the house, how they like, and actually scare other tenants. And also,
I see.
I never go into the student market. I rented out the houses to professionals. So people who were project managers, people who probably a police officer, an NHS worker. So I'll have different sort of professionals living in that house. So they actually go to work. There is a market for the student market in HMOs, but I focus on the
professionals.
Initially focused on the professional side. And again, it just worked. So far, so good. 4 years on, we currently have over 60 tenants in our portfolio, and we have a business turning over £500,000 in revenue, and that's just how we managed to build Property Worth Estate.
Yeah, and this is another thing as well. So you've actually managed to develop an investment portfolio that's worth over £1 million. So like, how did you get to that point? Because obviously that doesn't happen overnight. So like, how have you got to that point?
It's come from consistency. It's come from hard work. It's come from, using every challenge that I went through to just, develop a very strong thick skin. Just saying, what, I've been through so much, lost money. It's time for me to smash it now, because the first 10 years, I didn't have that sort of breakthroughs that I have now. I never developed myself. I never had a conversation with other business entrepreneurs who are doing well. So I stuck in my comfort zone. So the difference now is, way back, I never had friends who had millions. I never had a friend that I can look at him and say, oh, he's a millionaire, or tell me how you became a millionaire. And we have a millionaire sort of conversation. So I was in a situation whereby I probably had a business. I had a business of £150,000, and probably the people who I was leveling up with were people, no disrespect to anyone, but if you want to become a millionaire, all right, you've got to find yourself 4 millionaires so you can become the 5th millionaire. If you want to become successful, you've got to find yourself 4 successful people so you can become the 5th successful person.
Yeah.
If you want to be positive, you go find yourself 4 positive people, and you become the 5th. So these were just actions that I took, invested heavily into my personal development, and non-stop till to date. I still have mentors. I have 2 mentors, who currently mentors me, helps me out when I'm down or when I'm high, whatever it is. You just need someone to help you. someone who understands where you're coming from. So those are what I've been able to use to build a business in the industry of millions now, because you can't do it all by yourself. You can't. You need people. You need coaching. You need people to lift you up when you're down. And you've got to go to the right person for the right advice. You can't go to the wrong person for the right advice. A lot of people go to the wrong person for the right advice, which is one of the things that I did do, during those times where I was going through those challenges. I went for the wrong people for the right advice. I also believed in myself for me to advise me. But obviously then at that time, other than the fact that I listened to myself, which sometimes I give credits to, but I did not really go to people for help. I didn't reach out for help. So this time around, I reached out for help. So lessons learned from everything that I went through in the past, I used it positively now. And this is what's now helped me build a business over the last over the last 4 years. So yes, it doesn't happen overnight for you to just jump from an Uber driver to building a business such as mine, which is now valued over £2 million.
Hey.
Yeah, it doesn't happen overnight. It takes a lot of hard work, but just have a goal, break them down. All right. Have a vision. Don't deprive yourself from consistently reviewing that vision. All right. And take one step at a time. And trust me, with the right environment, with the right guidance, with the right drive, resilience, understanding that nothing called success happens overnight. And remember, it's a build-up, just how we've been talking on this podcast, because there's been a build-up of getting to where we are now. That is just life. It's a process, brick by brick, one brick at a time, one brick at a time, one brick at a time. And trust me, success is in front of everyone.
Couldn't agree more. Yeah, when you were sort of talking there, you mentioned that you sometimes still get mentored by other people, but you also offer mentoring services. So talk to us a little bit about what you actually offer in that regard and how people can benefit from that.
Well, like I said, when I started Property Wealth Estate, one of the things that I did really well was I documented my journey in front of social media, from nothing to being where I am now. So if you probably go through my Instagram or my Facebook, you will see how I literally just documented everything. So I started documenting everything in 2017 into 2018. And at the early part of 2019, a lot of people who had their own events started reaching out to me to come and share my journey, to inspire and motivate other people. And I would go to networking events. I remember my very first networking event where I was invited with this amazing lady. She's the founder of Property Pillars. So she invited me over to come and speak in her event. And I remember going to other networking events, Lucian Property Meet, because I'm based in South London, and different types of networking events. And these people invite me to just come and share the energy behind my property investing and what I'm doing. And I started to do that. And every time I went to speak, people will reach out to me and say, Daniel, what is it that you do? Can I sit down with you for an hour or two to pick your brain? I don't mind paying you for it. And people started planting it. Just people started, I'll pick you, let's go for a meal. I want to pick your brain. I'll pay for the meal is on me. Daniel, let's go for coffee. The coffee is on me. Daniel, I don't mind, paying for a drink. And I started receiving gifts like that. So I remember, I went for, I had gone to a coffee meeting to sit down with someone, and I gave them some very serious tip nuggets, which I didn't even know I was doing. But 3 days later, they went and secured a property, and he literally said, I want to see you. And he came to my house and literally brought me a bottle of Dom Perignon. Oh. And I'm like, wow, it's like those things you said, it worked. And I just wanted to come and say thank you. And obviously, I was investing in my property journey. And I started to reach out now for mindset coaches, mindset trainers, personal development coaches, just you name it. I started reaching out. And in 2019, towards the middle of the year, I decided to say, you know what? Instead of me going to other people's events to speak all the time, why don't I host my own network? I launched a networking event called the Rent to Rent Property Network, which was which was focused on talking on the focusing on discussing topics like just controlling other people's property, which was rent to rent. We launched that in September 2019, and I remember our first event, we had about 50 people in the room. Second event in October, we had about 102. Third event in November, we had about almost 150 people in the room. And at that point in time, we decided to launch our training program. So I launched it, and we had our first boot camp, which was a 2-day training boot camp in central London. We launched it, and we had about 5 or 6 people in attendance. And that same year, I met my current mentor, Adam Stott. He's done over 60 million pounds in sales on social media. I reached out to him, and I went to his event, and we started talking. I just shared my journey. He just said, Daniel, you've got so much to help other people like yourself, or other people. You have so much in you that you can actually not only, let's forget about the monetization part, but you have so much in you that just listening to you, I feel so inspired. I'm like, whoa, I'm like, really? And it's like, there are lots of limiting beliefs here, and I can see, because it's where you're coming from. There are things there are pains that you've been through, and we need to unlock them. And we had a sit down, and he took me into this craziest place. Like, he just motivated, and he took me into this really big place in terms of mentally, where initially when we got in that mental room, it was so dark that there was no light. And eventually he led me to see my own light, and the light shined so brightly. And I said, wow, I'm ready to rock and roll. And guess what? 2020, I founded Property Wealth Education. And just between that 2019 till now, we've trained over hundreds. Currently, we've got those that have been through our training program. We've got massive success. We run a mentorship program. Those that go through 60% of those that have been through the training program, they've had success. 80% of those who have been through my mentorship program, which is a minimum of 6 months to 12 months program, currently are actually achieving success. The testimonials are crazy. And I just look back and I'm like, oh my days, like, I just feel so humbled, just feel so happy that people who never thought they could get started in property, are getting started in property. One of my students, Nick Ifield started in, he was also an Uber driver. He listened to my Uber driver story, and he reached out to me, and he became one of my clients. And Nick started his journey last year. He's now built a business generating almost about £100,000 already, with 6 properties in his portfolio. We got the likes of Evans, Willie. We got so many people who've been able to just literally, start from nothing and taking on properties that they don't own and generating cash flow, obviously doing it the right way, doing it the legal way, and helping them, their family out, and getting started in property. So we do offer a lot of coaching around mindsets, to winning in property, getting started in property, building a life of your dream through property. One of the things I don't sell is the get rich quick analogy of it. Mm-hmm. I don't sell that. It is, you need to bring your heart, you need to bring your shoes, your boots, you need to, everything that you have, you need to bring it to work if you really want to be successful in property. It's not a 3 months get rich quick scheme. It took me 12 months to quit my job. It took me 3 years to build a personal portfolio of over 1.5 million with a business of 2 million. It's not taking me 1 or 2, 3 years, it's taking me 4 years to be where I am now. So it's a journey of the brave. It's not for the faint-hearted, So yeah, anyone can actually get started in property. So those are the things that we offer at Property Wealth Education. We help to motivate, we help to inspire, we help to destroy the limiting belief that people have. We literally crush it. Like, limiting belief, you have to crush it. It's not your best friend. You have to destroy it. So we help people eliminate that limiting belief, because I suffered from it myself. And over the course of years, having mentors has actually helped me so much, to do that. So yeah, so that's what we do at Property Wealth Education.
Excellent. Thank you for sharing. Now, I ask my guests this a lot, and it always gets a different response, but I'd love to hear what you have to say. What's the biggest life lesson that you've learned so far?
The biggest life lesson is no matter how much you get knocked down, don't stay there. No matter what it is, no matter how many times you get knocked down. As you can share as you can see through my journey, I wanted a better life, came to England, it didn't happen, relocated back to Nigeria, went back, started business, got knocked down, came back to the UK again, and felt depressed, felt lost. No matter what you go through, if you think you've already met your end, remember this, the end is actually your beginning. Don't stay there. Don't give up. Don't say, oh, it's finished. Because the universe believes in you. The God who created you believes in you. Whatever you believe in, you're not, there is no such thing as, like I said I was useless. I felt useless. Don't ever use those words on yourself, because it's just phases of your life. Life challenges is there to help you grow, become a better you, to make you a better person. It's not to weigh you down. So no matter what you fight through, even health challenges, don't be down. Rise up to that challenges and fight, and don't stop no matter what.
It's an excellent message. Couldn't agree more. Do you have any final thoughts or maybe some upcoming projects that you'd like to share with us?
Yes, I'm actually feeling so excited. In 2019, I actually started a journey writing my first book.
Oh, okay. Congrats.
I put it on hold for some reason. I just literally finished writing it, but I just felt like, you know what, I'll release it at the right time. A couple of times I tried to release it, but I felt it wasn't a proper time. But now I'm really, really fired up because it is the proper time to actually release the book. So I'm looking to releasing that book, fingers crossed, before the end of April. And we're actually releasing our podcast as well. It's called the Property, Wealth and Business Podcast. It's going to be launched next week.
Excellent.
It's going to be launched next week. So I'm really, really super fired up. I'm so excited. I can't wait to launch the podcast. I can't wait to launch the book. So those are the current projects that I'm really, really looking forward to at the minute. Yeah. And also looking at obviously, spreading my message, my journey, my story, to inspire, to motivate, anyone at all of any ethnicity, that regardless of how many times life knocks you down, it is building you for a greater future. And you just have to believe in it yourself. And if you believe in it, the universe will bring it to your doorstep.
I want to say a massive thank you, Daniel, for agreeing to be on this show. It's been an absolute pleasure speaking with you, learning about your life. And I think that, this episode is really going to serve as a source of inspiration for many listening, particularly, in these difficult times. So, yeah, just a massive thank you for sharing your story, and I wish you all the best.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much for having me. I really appreciate it. Thank you.
It's been a pleasure. And for everyone listening to the Christian Reeve Podcast, wherever you're listening, make sure to drop us a review. Let us know your thoughts. Let us know who you want to see on the show next, what you want to hear on the show next. And as always, be safe, be well. I'll see you in the next one.